I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we reluctantly eat candy. Because this week we watched The Invasion of Time.
Written by David Agnew, quote unquote.
Directed by Gerald Blake.
And aired in February and March of 78.
Don't know why we drew so much attention to the pseudonym when we haven't done that before.
Yeah, no, we usually don't. Or I usually don't, rather. But yeah, David Agnew is just a pseudonym for Anthony Reed and Graham Williams.
Yeah, apparently whatever serial they had planned for this originally, something about cat people living on Gallifrey, was cancelled.
Reminiscent of that novel with the dog overlords or whatever it was, which has a really stupid title. I forget what it is.
It's Mad Dogs and Englishmen.
Oh, I was gonna say it was Every Dog Has Its Day, but its actual title is equally stupid.
Yeah, it's an Eighth Doctor novel. Yeah, I don't know why this serial, one about the cat people, was cancelled. Maybe it's because it features cat people. I mean, what? But yeah, this serial. I enjoyed this serial. I thought it lived up to its epic name.
It was all right. There were many things I liked about it, but there were equally many things that I disliked about it.
I thought it was one of the better 6-part serials. I mean, it did that thing that we always talk about in 6-part serials where it changed up the plot at some point between episode 1 and 6.
But at the same time, the initial villains just felt like placeholders for the actual villains.
Because they were. It's revealed later. So the serial begins with the Doctor signing some sort of shady contract with some shady aliens, and he's like, so I get to rule all of Gallifrey? And they're like, yes, yes.
And he's like, sweet. And you're like, Doctor, what are you doing? And you don't find out until like episode 4, but it wasn't really a surprise that he had some sort of plan, because he always has some sort of plan.
Yeah, he acts really strange for the first 3 episodes, and you're like, what? What is happening? What?
And Baker's acting is also really strange for the first 3 episodes, because he just yells at everyone.
Yeah, they basically explain it away later. We'll get there. So
Poorly.
He runs into the TARDIS and materializes on Gallifrey. And Leela's like, so where are we? And he's like, on Gallifrey. And Leela's like, okay.
K9's there too, obviously, and he gets told to shut up within the first few minutes. Again.
Yeah, but then the Doctor tells K9 to tell Leela to shut up, and that actually happens.
Yeah, no,
So-
I like that K9 played a super prominent role in this serial, and after seeing the ending, I know why.
Yeah, so the Doctor's acting pretty weird. He runs out into Gallifrey and is like, okay, guys, I want to claim the presidency because back in the Deadly Assassin, I ran for president, and the monster was running, sort of, but he ran away and the other candidate got killed, so I was the only candidate, and I want to claim the presidency now. And they're like, oh, well, this has never happened before.
And some of the old characters are back. Barusa is back.
Yeah, he appears to have regenerated, played by a completely different actor who's also way older than the previous one.
And who also acts really weirdly. I mean, did you notice all those weird pauses in his acting, right?
Yeah, Bruce's character was the most confusing for me in this whole serial. I just didn't know what side he was on. I didn't know what he was trying to do. I don't know what his motivation was.
Yeah, pretty much his entire personality didn't make sense at all.
No, it didn't.
Anyway, it was pretty nice that, they touched upon a serial from a few years ago that they obviously weren't planning on bringing back at the time of its inception. I mean, in any explicit way. I mean, obviously it's set on Gallifrey and they have all these characters so they could bring them back in the future, and then they did, so that was nice.
Yeah, it's nice that it serves as sort of a pseudo-sequel. I wouldn't call it a direct sequel, but it picked up some of those plot threads.
Yeah, and I mean, it almost threw me for a loop a little bit, because based on the previous serial set here, I was almost expecting the Master to show up halfway through. But no, actually a completely different recurring villain shows up halfway through. Or
Villains.
2/3 of the way through.
Yeah, so the Doctor and Barusa kind of talk around. The Castellan is here too. Although
A new one.
I think it's implied to be a different Castellan.
No, it is a completely different one. It's Castellan Kelnar.
Who's also completely terrible at his job, as the Doctor notes later on.
And completely willing to just side with everyone who's not the Time Lords. Did you notice? I mean, he was completely willing to just betray his own people. And he seemingly wanted to at every chance that he got. Well, I mean, obviously he was just vying for power. In the worst way possible.
Yeah. He does everything opposite to what his job is. His job is to protect the president. He does everything to not do that.
And there was that shady deal that barely got expanded upon.
Oh, yeah. That. Well, we'll get there. So the Doctor talks with Bruce, and it turns out Bruce has been pretty shady, because apparently he's just decided to take over Gallifrey. He's the Chancellor, apparently. And apparently the Chancellor has always been, I guess, subservient to the President, but because they didn't have a President, Barusa just took over all the power.
Yeah, looks like they haven't gotten that sorted out yet.
And now that the Doctor's back, he's like, yep, I'm going to be President, Barusa, so you're going to have to obey me.
Except he says it in a more Tom Baker-ish tone. That's what I noticed about this serial. It's pretty much Tom Baker. The serial, starring Tom Baker as Tom Baker.
Oh, well. So they're going to the induction ceremony, and they're back in the Panopticon from the Deadly Assassin. Looks exactly identical somehow. Either they saved the set, or they had a really good set designer who could rebuild that set.
Well, it is kind of just a room, like I mentioned in The Deadly Assassin, for a room called the Panopticon. It's pretty disappointingly cramped.
Well, only the highest of Time Lords get to witness the President's induction.
And yeah, it's pretty much what episode 1 is, the President's induction, because it pretty much just ends with...
Yeah, and Leela's kind of just running around. That's exactly what she's just running around.
Yeah, she's trying to be useful, but the Doctor keeps shutting her down. For reasons that are explained later. But yeah, the Doctor puts on, what was it called? Well,
he has the sash of Rassilon, right. He has the rod of Rassilon.
Right, so those are back.
And then he has the thing that connects him to the Matrix.
Yeah, I think it was called the circlet.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they just call it the Matrix, I believe.
Yeah.
Itself. So he puts that on and just screams out in agony.
Yeah.
Actually, he doesn't. He kind of just collapses.
Yeah, the wiki says he screams in agony, but he kind of goes, ah, and then falls over. I also forgot to mention that the Doctor has talked about the furnishings for his room, and is really confusing and talking about ancient Earth history, and he wants, I don't know exactly what he wanted, but something from the late 18th century, I think, or 19th century.
Yeah, I seem to remember that.
And Bruce is like, well, we'll get right on it. We don't have many people on Gallifrey who specialize in that architecture anymore, but I guess we can figure something out.
Was that the reason he was reading that early 20th century paper at the end?
Probably.
Huh.
Yeah, so he doubles over in pain, and episode 2 begins with Leela running over and getting the thing off his head, and then everybody's like, she tried to kill him. She's like, no, I saved him. And
even though they were right there watching him collapse, and then they watched Leela come up and try and save him. But
Time Lords are just really suspicious.
Yeah, they are, come to think of it. But I guess Leela pulling her knife doesn't help.
No, she does that a lot in this serial.
Yes, she does. And it never helps, actually. Except that one time when she kills that one.
Oh, I was going to say, except that one time when she gets thrown into the desert and...
Yeah, that too.
Okay, well, that happens soon. So the Doctor's kind of passed out, I guess, and they're like, it'll take him weeks to recover. And then Leela walks in, and then he just pops up, like, hey, what's up? And they're like, what? I guess it's implied that the Doctor's the most powerful mind on Gallifrey, not only here, but in episode 4 or 3.
Well, they do make all those passing comments in the serial about how the Gallifreyans need to expand their horizons and stuff, and I don't know.
Well, they do have that whole non-interference policy.
Yeah. And as usual, the Doctor shames them over it.
Yeah. So in episode... Well, episode 2 wasn't that content-filled either, I guess.
Nope. This serial kind of breaks the trend that we've been having with the past 6-episode serials, which is that it feels like older 6-episode serials that kind of have pacing issues, or they could have been condensed.
Maybe, but I didn't feel that it was too boring. It felt... I liked Gallifrey and politics for some reason. And the Doctor kind of... Because I wanted to know why the Doctor was acting so weird, because he now exiles Leela to the boundaries of the Citadel.
Right.
She's like, no, Dr. Why? And he's like, go! There's no aliens allowed in the Citadel. So she runs away. I mean, obviously the Doctor had to know she would run away. There's no way Leela would just give up without a fight.
Yeah, pretty much.
She runs into Rodan,
Isn't that a little bit later?
Yeah, later in the serial, probably, maybe. Yeah, she probably... No, she runs into him in episode 2. Huh. She runs into her. But the Doctor's kind of going, yo, it's Gallifrey, I'm gonna rest here, you guys just go away. So they all go away, and the Doctor finds Bruce's secret door that leads directly into the President's chambers for some reason.
Right. It has a voice-activated lock, which was, hold on here, I wrote it down somewhere.
Well, while you're looking for that, I'll just bring up the point that it's a voice-activated lock that's not keyed to a specific voice. It's just keyed to a sentence that anybody could say.
Yeah, the sentence, there's nothing more useless than a lock with a voice print.
Well, yeah, the lock's totally useless. This is not even keyed to Barusa's voice. It's just keyed to anyone's voice.
I guess. I thought it was keyed to Barusa's voice, and then the Doctor kind of tried to change his voice a little bit to match Barusa's, but maybe it was just my imagination.
Yeah, I thought it was just whoever says the line opens the door.
Yeah, it pretty much makes sense based on what happens, which is, yeah, pretty useless.
Yeah, so the Doctor goes through the door into his chambers and is like,
where he has a bunch of hubcaps welded to the walls.
It's really rather eccentric and totally Doctor. It actually serves a purpose, as you find out later in episode 3, I think. So the Doctor then busts out of that room and is like, all right, gotta go to my TARDIS. So he goes to the TARDIS and meets up with K9, and it cuts away, and then it cuts back, and then the Doctor's like, so what do you think of my plan, K9? And K9's like, 12.5% success rate. The Doctor's like, really, that low?
They have some sort of witty back and forth. Forget exactly what they said, but didn't the Doctor awkwardly consult with Barusa's awkward actor before this? Or something?
Maybe.
Meanwhile, Kelnar is... Well, he's installed cameras, or there's some cameras onto the Doctor's office or something like that, and he sees that the Doctor isn't in there, so he's like, ha-ha, I'm going to use this fact to do something.
Yeah, he sees the Doctor run into the TARDIS, and then he sees Leela run up to the TARDIS, and then he sees Leela run away, and all the guards run in, and then all the guards think Leela's in the TARDIS, so they're like, go get the keys. Apparently they have master keys for every TARDIS type on Gallifrey, even though they mentioned multiple times that the Doctor's TARDIS has been decommissioned.
Doesn't mean they wouldn't have a key for an old model, though.
I guess. We also forgot to mention the scene where the Doctor was looking for Leela and she was just in the swimming pool in the TARDIS. Yeah, the TARDIS has a swimming pool. It also has a maze-like construction of warehouses,
Yeah.
as you find out later. Right, so the Doctor's consulting with K9 about his plan, and he tells K9 what he needs to do, which is to go blow up, I guess, some sort of...
He needs to go do some R2-D2-esque tampering with the security systems or something like that.
Yeah, except way more violent than R2-D2, because K9 rolls out of the TARDIS and just immediately kills the first person he sees. Or stuns, but it looks like he kills him, so we're putting him on the death count.
Yeah! So, I think now is when Leela runs into Rodan.
Yeah. While the Doctor's running back to his room.
Right, Leela kind of hides out in a room, and there's some lady in the room named Rodan. She's protected by a force field, and she's actually some sort of air traffic controller.
Yeah.
or she at least maintains the force field around Gallifrey.
Yeah, something like
to that extent.
apparently there's a force field around Gallifrey that was established by Rassilon. Everything's established by Rassilon, I might add.
Yep. So Leela kind of talks with Rodan for a little bit, and Rodan mentions how she's not going to turn in Leela because it's really none of her concern. And the whole, I don't give a darn about anything that's happening around me attitude isn't one that lasts to any extent after this scene. I mean, she kind of does start caring afterwards.
Yeah, probably because she follows Leela out into the wasteland. But before that, she has a force field protecting her from Leela, and then she lets it down because I guess she just trusts Leela now.
Or she just doesn't give a darn about her own life or anything.
Wow, I don't know why I imagine her knitting now, but I don't think she was knitting. I think she was just fiddling with some controls or something.
Yeah, no.
No, she wasn't knitting. Yeah, no, I know that. But the Doctor runs back to his room, and the Castellan is dramatically busting down the door, and he's like, "See? He's not here!" And the Doctor's like, "What?" And the Castellan's like,
He pretends to be asleep, I think, and then he kind of wakes up.
Starts yelling at the Castellan and Bruce, and he's like, "Get out! Get out!"
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. So, episode 2 ends with K9 kind of running through the corridor. Driving through the corridors, I guess.
Rolling through the corridors. They see him rolling. No.
They hate him. So, he blows up the magical mystical plot device. And I don't know what it does. It just destroys something vital to Gallifrey. And it's some sort of stabilizer, I think. No, they don't take down the shield till episode 3 because...
But it's something to...
It's something to do with Gallifrey's stabilization, I think. It has to be done before they can take down the shield.
Yeah, I thought they needed to take whatever this is down before they could take down the shields.
Yeah, but it turns out they couldn't take down the shields because science. So, yeah, K9 blows that up and everyone goes, "Oh no, the stabilizers are out," and then episode 2 ends. Episode 3 begins with, "Oh no, the stabilizers are out," and then Rodan and Leela kind of make a break to get out of the Citadel, I guess, because everyone's hunting them in the Citadel. And it'd probably be a good idea to leave the Citadel.
Right, and we see the first instance of Gallifrey outside the Citadel, which is just a wasteland.
Yeah, it's just a desert.
And you probably knew that, but I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they depict the wasteland desert of Gallifrey a lot in the reboot whenever they show Gallifrey.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess all the Time Lords have just congregated in either one location or multiple Citadels. Yeah. Not really explained here, but I'm assuming that's going to get expanded upon next time they come here.
Yeah,
or at least at some point in
hopefully. Or they just don't.
That could also very well be the case.
So they run into these exiles, I guess, or just non-Time Lord Gallifreyans who live outside the Citadel. Wasn't really explained that well.
No, they're basically hippies. Because later on, their leader, as they're eating with them, their leader's like, "Yeah, we didn't like Time Lord policy, so we decided to get back to nature." And he uses that exact phrase, "get back to nature." I don't know what nature they wanted to get back to, since it's all desert.
Just a wasteland.
He mentions because Rodan is sort of breaking down, and he mentions, "You wouldn't last 3 days out here without us. Have you ever eaten meat or fruit?" And I was like, "What fruit? There's literally no plants out here."
Yeah, but Leela fits right in.
Yep.
Like back among her people.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Yeah, I got this. Look, I got a knife. I got Rodan for guidance, I guess. I can kill things," and they're like, "You could be useful." So it cuts back to the Doctor, and he's talking with K9 again. He goes back to the TARDIS with K9, I think, and talks with him about the next part of the plan. Because the alien species named the Vardens, and the Vardens apparently don't trust the Doctor enough to come forth onto Gallifrey, and I guess they can't because of the shield. Also, we got to mention all those scenes that it cuts away to the Vardens talking about the Doctor, and they're like, yes, he's perfect.
Yeah, those aren't actually that relevant looking back. It's kind of just them discussing the Doctor and not exactly saying much.
Yep.
Pretty terrible villain.
I guess it's supposed to make them menacing
but it doesn't, especially when you see what they look like. Both forms of them, might I add. Both of their forms, rather.
So the Doctor now spends some time trying to put the Matrix onto K9. Like, come on, K9. He's trying to balance it on his head, and he's like, ah! I don't know who decided to contain the Matrix in the circular crown thing.
It was probably Rassilon.
Everything is Rassilon's fault. Well, so, yeah, because the stabilizers are down, the Vardens have actually started to materialize on Gallifrey. And the Doc's like, so these are the Vardens, these are our new overlords.
And they look like...
people covered in cling wrap.
Yeah, essentially.
They sound like it, too.
Yeah, whenever they're on screen, there's this static sound effect. Yeah, they look like CSO cellophane.
It's just amazing special effects. It's even more disappointing when you learn that Underworld was considered to be cancelled so they could allocate the budget to this serial because the budget for the serial was so high.
But yeah, that's them. At least they didn't have a stupid electric sounding voice that you can understand. No, they just sounded like normal people.
That's true. I mean, the cellophane's not even their true form.
You haven't seen my final form yet.
Because as it turns out, they can't fully materialize because of the shield around Gallifrey, which the Doctor needs to take down because he needs to, I guess, get the Vardens to trust him. I think in episode 3 is when the Doctor meets with Barusa for the first time and reveals for the whole time that the Vardens have been reading his thoughts, and the reason why I can't tell anyone his plan is because the Vardens are basically in his brain.
Yep, and the reason why the entire
the room has got hubcaps on is because it's lead, and they can't travel through lead because apparently electromagnetic waves that they travel along can't get through lead.
And, at this point you expect Barusa to be like, yeah, but no, he continues to just act really awkwardly and make you wonder which side he's on.
Yeah, he starts acting even more suspicious, to be honest. He's like, and banishing Leela was the only way to protect her. Right. I'm just like, what? Barusa, what are you doing?
Well, the Doctor mentions that he couldn't tell Barusa or anyone else his plan outside of the room because they're all more transparent than glass. And Barusa's like, yeah, if we were more transparent than glass, then Leela, haha.
Yeah, and then the Doctor demonstrates this by being like, so do you want some tea? And Barusa's like, tea? What about the Vardens? And the Doctor's like, see, you're too one-track minded. And Bruce is like, yes.
Yeah, he's Palpatine. Yes, no.
Give in to your hate. Yeah, so the Doctor has been acting weirdly because the Vardens can basically read people's thoughts and infest their brains.
Well, obviously he wasn't just... He hadn't just gone off the deep end here. Obviously he had a plan. It wasn't really that big of a reveal.
No, but at least they explained why he was acting so weird. And like so much of a jerk for the first 3 episodes.
So the tribe outside, not tribe, I guess they're just exiled.
They're like rebel. They're
hippies.
They're like a ragtag group of hippies, and then some people who are exiled from the city. And then they kind of turn into rebels because Leela reveals that aliens have invaded the Citadel, and they need to go get the Doctor because he'll have a plan.
No, don't they already know that? Because I was going to mention that because they seem to have some knowledge of what's going on inside the Citadel. Because I thought they mentioned, the aliens and stuff before Leela had explained it, and they go, "Wait, you're the alien," when she says, "I'm a member of the Seva team" or whatever.
Yeah, but I thought they only thought that Leela was there, and then Leela's like, "Yeah, we've been totally invaded." And they're like, "What? There's more?"
Oh yeah, I guess she alerts them to the fact that
they've been invaded.
Yeah,
and
I guess because no one else, or barely anyone else, knows except the people who saw the Vardens and Rodan.
Yeah,
and Leela by extension.
So they're like, "We got to get the Doctor because he'll have a plan." And they're like, "How are we gonna get in? We don't have any weapons. All we have are these knives and bows and arrows." Not even there's a scene where Leela's shooting a bow and arrow, and they're like, "Good job, Leela," and they start trying to train some of the other rebels. Sorry, I combined rebels and exiles, and I got rabbis. Because some more people got exiled when the Vardens showed up. There's a scene where this one guy's trying to shoot a bow and arrow, and he just totally fails. I actually kind of felt bad for him. He looked like a kind of old guy, and he's like, and he gets really frustrated, and I was like, oh man, that must really suck.
Yeah, must. But Leela shoots a bow and arrow with great proficiency, as the Doctor actually mentions later. And they're like, well, we don't really have any weapons. And Leela's like, then what are these? So they decide to go storm the Citadel.
Yeah.
I guess, interestingly enough, Leela's never shot a bow and arrow before. I guess she used, like, laser crossbow things.
Yeah, they had those laser guns on her planet.
Yeah.
They had more advanced weaponry than these hippies on Gallifrey.
Hey, they wanted to get back to nature.
What nature?
Yeah, I wonder how they got all that food. They looked like they were having some sort of feast. When there seems to be no life at all outside of the Citadel.
Well, it's not really explained, ever. So they decide to go bust into the Citadel, because Rodan can guide them, since she knows all the corridors in the Citadel. Meanwhile, now the Doctor's actually talking with K9 about they need to find a way to take down the shield so the Vardens can trust them. But now it's revealed that the Castellan basically just sides with whomever happens to have the most power, because now he's like, you know, Vardens, I think the Doctor's acting pretty weird. They're like,
He makes up, I think, some sort of excuse here as to why the Doctor isn't fit to be president and that he should be president. And he apparently pays off one of the guards to kill the Doctor. He makes this shady deal like, it would be a shame if anything were to happen to the Doctor.
Yeah, it was, wasn't that Andred?
Was it Andred?
I think so, yeah. Because he starts this whole little rebellion thing that totally fails when Andred busts into the TARDIS. Right now, when the Doctor's talking with K9, Andred busts in, he's like, I'm gonna kill you. And then episode 3 ends with Andred threatening to kill the Doctor.
And also begins with it, because this serial did the
usual thing. The usual thing where they just continue the cliffhangers.
Except they did it to a much greater extent here. At some time. I mean, it wasn't War Games level where they go back like 5 minutes, but it was a little jarring.
So the Doctor, well, I guess he like knocks the gun out of Andred's hand, but then when Andred picks it up and tries to kill the Doctor, he just reveals that the gun won't work in his TARDIS anyway.
Something like that. And that his entire rebellion has failed because the people outside have
turned back to the president's side. I've got to mention all the scenes where the Doctor's been offering jelly babies, and I only thought of that because he gave one to that guard when he came out.
Right.
Which is where the intro for our episode came from.
Right, he offers one of the guards a jelly baby, and he just reluctantly takes it, and the Doctor also takes one, and they just both stand there very slowly and awkwardly eating. And
then he gives him the whole bag of jelly babies. He's like, I have like tons of bags in the TARDIS.
Yeah, Earth delicacy, supposedly.
Trying to imagine now there's, at some point, the Doctor just showed up at like an Earth candy shop. It's like, I'd like all your jelly babies, please. And they're like, okay. But he also has the Castellan give him one later. It's my favorite jelly baby scene so far. It's just like, there seems to be no orange ones left. Your president seems like, what is life without orange jelly babies? But anyway, Andred's like, well, so what now? And then the Doctor explains his whole plan again to Andred.
And then Andred also switches sides.
I mean, who wouldn't? Turns out the Doctor's actually been playing the Vardens the whole time.
Yeah,
like,
Kelnar wouldn't.
That's true.
Kelnar he doesn't.
Wouldn't. But because Andred isn't as, I guess, powerful in mental blockage as the Doctor is, the Doctor modifies Andred's helmet to be kind of a blocking shield for the Vardens' mind control powers.
Couldn't he have just done that for everyone, including Barusa? Or at least, if not everyone, at least Barusa. I mean, Barusa could have been his biggest ally.
Yeah, I don't know what Barusa does now. He's kind of hangs around in his office for a bit.
He kind of just hangs out for the rest of the serial being suspicious. And then in the end, it turns out he wasn't planning anything and was just completely on board with everything.
He was just trying to make everything more interesting.
I think it was just his weird acting that led us to believe he was up to something. I don't think his
guess.
character was supposed to imply that at all.
No. Not at all. So he's talking with Andrew for a bit, and Andrew's like, well, I guess I'm on your side now, Doctor. And he's like, yep. So K9's trying to access the Matrix so we can take down the shield. And Andrew's like, what? Take down the shield? Can't do that. Rassilon put that up.
The Doctor says, well...
Then Rassilon can take it down.
Right, and I thought they were going to go into the Matrix and meet Rassilon, and that would have been really cool, but...
No, it turns out Rassilon's mind is part of the Matrix, because apparently every president's mind becomes part of the Matrix when you become president.
Honestly, even at this point, the final few episodes here felt drawn out enough that I feel like could have gone into the Matrix and met Rassilon.
Yeah, but then they could have just asked Rassilon where that key thing is that comes into play later on. For no apparent reason.
The 10 minutes they spent discussing the key and looking for it, they could have spent discussing things with Rassilon and meeting him.
Well, rest assured, Rassilon at least shows up in the reboot, so...
At least there's that.
So, they kind of just go around doing things now. It's like, while K9 tries to hack into the Matrix. Well, not really hack. The Doctor just gives K9 unsupervised access to the Matrix.
Yep. K9's trustworthy, right? He's not an evil
psychopath. Well, the Doctor mentions at some point in the serial that K9's his second best friend. Obviously, Leela being the first.
Oh, I thought it was Barusa. No, I'm just kidding. You mean it wasn't Kelnar? No. Yep, and like the Doctor says, all his friends always leave him.
Wow, that doesn't give away the ending of the serial. I don't know what does. So, now they kind of come out of the TARDIS, and they go with K9 to some sort of control room, and they don't take down the whole shield, but the Doctor and K9 have figured out that they can take down a part of the shield.
Right. They can burn a hole in the ozone layer. No. They can take down the part of the shield over the Citadel or something like that. Yeah.
We should allow the Voidans to fully materialize. So he does that, and they materialize, and turns out they're just another generic humanoid-looking alien thing.
Yeah, they even mentioned that. Kelnar's like, wow, they're just humans. And the Doctor's like, yeah, disappointing, isn't it? I guess possibly breaking the fourth wall here, because he possibly breaks the fourth wall in the last 5 seconds.
Well, it's also revealed that the Doctor needs the Voidans to materialize so K9 can get the coordinates of their planet so he can time loop their planet and basically trap the Voidans on their planet.
Yeah, they're bringing that back, the whole time loop their planet thing.
I guess the Voidans are some sort of galactic menace. I imagine there's some sort of story that takes place immediately before this one where the Doctor is fighting the Voidans and then somehow convinces them to let him go back to Gallifrey.
Probably.
So he does that, and then K9 spits out the coordinates while they're hanging out in the president's office, and Barusa shows up and is like, I'm gonna kill you all. Because Leela and co show up and try to capture the Doctor, but the Doctor's like, shh, I have a plan. Then K9 spits out the coordinates, and then the Doctor time loops the planet, and then they all think the day is saved.
But it's not, because the Sontarans show up.
Yeah, you think the day's saved, and it's like, but it's only episode 4, and then everyone turns around, and there's this dramatic reveal of a Sontaran in a helmet.
And you're just like, wow.
They brought back the Sontarans.
Of all people. They could have brought back the Master here. It would have been perfect, because...
Or the Daleks.
I guess.
Or the Cybermen. Or any of the more interesting enemies.
Well, I guess, I mean, they did recently introduce...
the Rutans. Yeah.
Semi-recently.
I guess it kind of ties together this whole season with the Rutans in the beginning and the Sontarans at the end.
Not that they made any references to the Rutans at all.
No, but they did reference, and apparently another ongoing feud the Sontarans have, which is with the Time Lords.
Is there anyone they're not at war with?
Yeah, the Sontarans. They're not at war with themselves. So episode 5 begins with the Sontarans being like, we are looking for Doctor. And the Doctor's like, well, it's not me, I'm just the president.
Yeah, no one gives him away, and they kind of make their escape somehow. Everyone except Kelnar, who decides to side with the Sontarans. Honestly, if he wasn't helping them, they wouldn't have gotten anywhere.
Yeah, well,
And they're vastly outnumbered by the Time Lords.
Kelnar is the true villain of this series. So the Doctor goes to now this is when the Doctor runs into Bruce again, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, Doctor. And the Doctor's like, what? Bruce is like, just kidding.
Adding further confusion to Barusa's character.
He's like, I'm gonna kill these people. And the Doctor's like, no, I vouch for these people. And the Bruce is like, oh, okay. So they head into Barusa's office, and the Doctor's like, I need the Great Key.
Bruce is like, no one can have the Great Key. No president has ever had the Great Key since Rassilon. It gives them too much power.
Tenet Rassilon!
I guess their entire system of checks and balances is based on the president not having access to the Great Key. But
I thought you were going to say their entire system, checks and balances, is based on Rassilon.
Yeah, that too. Because Rassilon apparently set everything in their society up and they haven't made any changes.
Yeah. I guess they're trying to set up Rassilon as this all-powerful founder of Time Lord Society.
Well, it would be pretty interesting, and I don't think they're going to do this, but what I might enjoy seeing is if they, meet Rassilon at some point, and he turns out to be, like, the villain of the serial or something.
Well, I won't say anything about his appearance in the reboot, but suffice to say, I hope they do something with him before his appearance in the reboot. Yeah.
Anyway,
Rassilon.
There's a wall of keys, and the Doctor's like, is one of these keys the Great Key? And Barusa's just like, The
Doctor's like, it is, isn't it? And then he grabs one, and Bruce is like, just kidding, no, it's not. And they're like, oh, well, okay. So Bruce just pulls the key out of a drawer and is like, here's the key, Doctor. And he's like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, it really was that awkward of a scene.
Then probably Barusa's fault.
Yeah, no, it was definitely Barusa's fault.
So the Doctor goes back to meet with his little troop, and he's like, all right, we got to get back to the TARDIS. And they're like, why? Well, actually, the Doctor sent Leela to take his little troop of guys, which includes Nesbin, the leader of the hippie rebels.
And Andred.
Wow, Nesbin just reminds me of that scene in Toy Story where Buzz Lightyear gets taken, and he's put in that teapot. He's like, my name's Mrs. Nesbit.
Oh. That one throwaway scene.
That was an important scene to the plot. What do you mean throwaway scene?
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Because Woody comes in and is like, Buzz, I need your help. Buzz's like, I'm Mrs. Nesbit. It's like, no, Buzz, we need to escape. And she's like, no, we're just a toy.
Yeah, it leads into like a pretty important scene, but that... Okay. Whatever. That can be discussed on Triple Play when we watch that trilogy.
When we watch
name drop Triple Play in every episode.
Well, we like Triple Play.
We make Triple Play. Anyway, the Sontarans are threatening Kelnar into doing their bidding.
Yeah, I don't know what he expected.
I think he wanted them to,
make him president? Yeah, right.
Well, he hasn't been one to make the best decisions ever.
Yeah,
throughout the serial.
So Kelnar tries to make the hull bigger, and then Rodan rewires the control of the shield through the Doctor's TARDIS, and as long as they're in the TARDIS, they're safe, and no one can do anything. And then the Castellan's like, well, you know what I can do? I can just throw the TARDIS into a black star. I feel like the line is actually black hole, and then Tom Baker kind of flubbed it to say black star, and they just left it in. Because what the heck is a black star?
Yeah, probably.
So episode 4 begins with them going, ah, and then they flip a switch, and they're like, okay, we're okay now. This is legitimately what happens. Episode 6. 6 begins with them escaping the star, and the entirety of 6 is them running through the TARDIS.
Oh, this is 6?
Yeah, we're in 6 now.
You said 4. And then I said 5. And then you said 6.
Episode 6 begins with them flipping a switch, and escaping and being like, okay, we're safe now. And then the Sontarans like, we gotta get the doctor. Let's bust into the TARDIS with those keys. So
they do.
Yeah,
but,
and Leela's hauled everybody up in the bathroom for some reason.
Well, the doctor told her to hold them up in some other room, and he's like, make a left, then make a left, then make a left, and then make another left, and you'll be there. She's like, okay, got it. So she goes, and when she gets back to the doctor, he's like, did you get there? And she's like, nope, they're in the bathroom.
And the doctor's like, I gave you directions. And she's like, I couldn't follow your directions.
No, she says she didn't get lost. Well, she's like, she reluctantly says, she's like, oh, they're in the bathroom. She's like, you got lost? And you're just like, no.
I couldn't follow your directions. The doctor's like, I know this TARDIS like the back of my hand.
And they immediately proceed to get lost.
No, they don't. They get where they're going. They just go through the same room like 4 times. Which I thought was pretty humorous, because they go through the room, and the doc's like, this is storage room A117 or whatever. And then they exit it, and then they come back in through the same door they came in earlier, and like, interesting, I know where I'm going. And then they go through a corridor, and they come through the room again. And Leela's like, wait, we've totally been here before, Doc. And he's like, no, this is storage room C16. It's like, why do they all look the same? Yeah, so this is the most extensive look of the TARDIS interior we've had so far. That's not the console room.
Right.
And it just looks like a warehouse.
Yeah.
Except for the pool, which looks like an elaborate estate mansion.
And that one room that looked like a gym locker room. And that other room that looked like a museum hallway.
One wonders what's going on in this TARDIS. I have to imagine one of those Sontarans just got lost and is still wandering around in the TARDIS to this day.
Next season.
And just pops up, like, hey!
Like next season now. Like, series, whatever they're on.
10. Just pops up. Like, hey! Where am I? Oh. Yeah, but they finally make it to the bathroom, and Bruce is sitting there reading a newspaper about that Titanic sinking, and the doc's like, I didn't have anything to do with this, I swear. Which I'm pretty sure is funny, because I think a future incarnation of the Doctor's on the Titanic when it sinks.
Well, actually, a few more Sontarans have died in the firefights they have.
Yeah, Nesbin gets killed.
Yeah.
That was in episode 5, actually. Nesbin's dead. Yeah, there was a scene where Leela's like, so what are their weaknesses, Doctor? And he's like, a small port on the back of the neck. And Leela throws a knife into the port on the back of their neck.
Yeah.
And the Doctor's like, that's a pretty prodigious throw, Leela. She's like, what does prodigious mean? He's like, it's pretty good.
Pretty good, Leela. Pretty good. So
they kind of go to the workshop, and K9, he hypnotizes Rodan, tells her to just do whatever
the doctor
K9 says.
Rather.
Then they kind of just go explore the TARDIS for a bit, and then they come back, and apparently they've constructed this ultimate super weapon that apparently should have never been constructed, but they never really explain why it shouldn't have been constructed.
Because it'll bring destruction to everyone or something, Bruce says. I don't know. It's called the DMAT gun. Obviously, dematerialization gun, but I thought they said TMAT gun.
Probably more efficient than the actual TMAT system. So, Doctor uses it on some Sontarans. Bruce is like, do you want to rule the galaxy with this, Doctor? And the Doctor just doesn't reply. I mean, obviously he doesn't.
Obviously he does.
It's not in the Doctor's character to just go around ruling the galaxy.
Or is it?
Nah. Pretty much straight up says that he doesn't want to rule it to the Master in that one serial back in the Third Doctor's era.
What if in the next series he comes out with an elaborately complicated scheme that's been in place since the very first episode that leads to him ruling everything?
Every serial has been manipulating some tiny event in history so that he comes to power and rules the galaxy?
Yes.
That'd be terrible. Be so shoehorned in, it wouldn't even make sense.
And that's why it would be great.
No, it wouldn't. It would suck.
Anyway, yeah, no, they head back to the Panopticon for some reason.
Yeah, the Doctor busts out, and Storr's got a grenade that apparently would blow up the entire planet.
No, wouldn't it blow up, like, the entire solar system or something?
Yeah, it would wipe out his entire battlefield. Blah. but also all the Time Lords.
Yeah, the Doctor says, "Are you willing to destroy yourself and your companions to destroy us?" And he's just like, "Yep."
So the Doctor shoots him with a DMAT gun, and then there's like this white flash, and then it's just not explained, but apparently the Doctor forgets the entire events of the serial.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that an effect of the gun? Was that what?
What?
It's not really touched upon, but maybe they'll bring back this gun to some capacity in the future. Or maybe they'll just forget about it. Pretty sure they're just going to forget about it. Like the Doctor did.
And then Leela's like, "So I'm not coming with you, Doctor." And the Doctor's like, "Oh." See that transition? That's better than how it was in the episode, because it goes, Bruce goes, "He doesn't remember anything," and then it cuts to the Doctor being like, thank you, let's go, Leela." And Leela's like, "Nope."
It actually looked like, this is probably just my imagination, but it actually looked like he kind of high-fived some people as he was walking towards the TARDIS.
High fives.
It's like, "Yeah, I don't remember what I did, but I saved Gallifrey."
Oh yeah, totally awesome. And Leela's like, "No, I'm staying with Android." And this is like, "What? Whoa! Slow down. What?"
Yeah, remember that romance that went on between them? Me neither, because it didn't happen.
Like, I could understand her wanting to stay on Gallifrey with, like the tribe of hippies.
What the hell?
Like, because Nesbin died, what they should have done is, but like, Leela is the new leader of that tribe. She takes over from Nesbin. Like, that would have been a good write-out.
I don't think they would, initiate her as the leader, but
that would have been a good write-out.
I mean, we both knew Leela was going to get ridden out here, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw these rebel hippie
I thought she was going to join them, yeah. But no.
Nope.
Joins Android, a guard that we just mentioned once or twice, who became important later on, but not that important. And then the Doc's like, "All right, come on, K9." And K9's like, "Negative." The Doc's like, "What?" He's like, "Must protect the mistress." And the Doc's like, "Oh, okay."
Well, see,
like kind of dejectedly.
This I kind of understand, because Leela and K9 had a close friendship, so... And there's that one last scene.
Yeah, Leela's like, "I'm gonna miss you, Doctor," and he's like, he nods, and then he closes the door, and he's like, "I'm gonna miss you too, Savage." And then he's kind of depressed for a bit, but then he goes into the back and rolls out the box.
And zooms in on the box and says, "K9 Mark II."
The Doctor kind of looks into the camera and smiles, and then it ends.
It's a Grinch smile, too. He starts frowning and then slowly just breaks into this smile.
So now there's 2 K9s in existence. Isn't that fantastic?
We're counting them as different characters, right?
I guess, yeah.
For death count purposes, that is.
And for kill count purposes.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Wait, did Leela surpass Jamie? How many did we say Leela needed in this serial to surpass Jamie?
Just 1, I think.
Oh. Well, she's tied with Jamie then. She only killed 1 in this serial.
Well, yep, that's the end of this season and of 2 companions.
Yeah.
So we should probably talk about them.
We'll start with the season. So we always do that because it's always really haphazard and because there's never really any tying theme between the serials. So
even I feel like there's even less of a tying theme as we go on, because I mean we had Base Under Siege and we had the whole story arc where the Doctor was stuck on Earth and everything. But here there's even less. So it's kind of back to, the first Doctor era,
Doctor traveling the galaxy, just kind of having fun, I guess.
Yeah, which isn't bad.
No, I enjoy it. It was fun with Leela and K9, which we'll talk about in a bit. There was a little bit of a tie together, I guess, we mentioned with the Rutons and the Sontaran.
Yeah, of course, still would have been better if they had directly mentioned it.
Yeah. Well, we got some good serials this season. Let me just pull up a list of serials in this season. Remember what they are. So we, Invisible Enemy was okay. Image of the Fendal could have been better, but it was okay. Basically, I'd sum up the season by saying it was okay, actually.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we had Underworld, which was pretty bad, and then everything else was just middle of the line.
Or it had potential and just didn't live up to it. Like Image of the Fendal, Sunmakers, Invisible Enemy to an extent. This, but So that was season 15, approaching the end. We're actually beyond the halfway point now.
Only 3 more seasons of Tom Baker.
Hey, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
Having some fun in this era.
Yeah, but I mean, if you just think about, the first and second Doctor, only had 3 seasons, and then...
Yeah, but those seasons were twice as long.
That's true.
So, I guess we'll talk about Leela now.
My favorite companion. Bar
really?
none. Yes.
I still like Jamie. Okay, well, I think Leela was kind of like a modern, quote-unquote modern, take on the Jamie character. Kind of someone who wasn't from contemporary England, who just traveled with the Doctor just because. Someone who kind of just wandered into the TARDIS and was just going along with it.
I guess I wouldn't say she's exactly like Jamie, but I guess we're talking about Jamie anyway. But she was more similar to Jamie than any other companion.
Yeah, I mean they both became close friends with the Doctor, and they both kind of were military minded, I guess, savage, so to speak. I guess is the word I'm looking for, but Jamie less so than Leela.
Yeah, of course, because Leela was just awesome. I mean, she killed everyone at the drop of a hat, but I don't know. I felt that because she was a hunter and just because of her character and everything, she did a lot more than previous companions. Definitely more than Sarah Jane, I would say.
I do feel like her character development went a little bit backwards, though, because she became more willing to kill people the later we went on in her life.
Or at least didn't change very much.
Yeah, which is my one problem with Leela. Pretty much all the companions previously, except Liz Shaw, had some sort of development in their character leading up to the departure.
Dodo. I mean...
Okay, not all of them, but all the good ones.
I mean...
Sorry to make that generalization, but it's kind of true.
Hey, I'm not going to vouch that Dodo was one of the better companions. But I don't know, I just really liked Leela a lot. I mean...
I think because she was fun.
And she was funny.
Yeah. And it's like Sarah Jane made some witty quips, but she was never, she never was an equal to the Doctor, and she never really did things that were really funny and just interesting to watch.
Right, and Leela, unlike other companions, didn't feel like a retread of anyone. I mean, Sarah Jane kind of was like Joe 2.0 to an extent.
Yeah.
And then there was Harry Sullivan, who kind of like Ian, sort of.
Maybe not really. I wouldn't really go so far as to say Harry was...
Maybe Stephen.
Maybe. They all had unique backgrounds, and, even true for Leela. All the companions that we liked were unique, because Harry was... I think what you're going for is Harry was contemporary London, like Ian and Barbara and Dodo and Liz Shaw and Joe Grant and Sarah Jane. They were all kind of... The Doctor stopped in modern-day London and picked up someone. And I think those work to an extent, but I prefer the companions that are alien like the Doctor, or if they're human, they're from a different time.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at our favorite companions, Leela and Jamie, they're not from modern day London.
Right. For lack of a better term.
Yeah, for lack of a better term. And Canine, obviously.
Right, we'll
a dog.
talk about in a second. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of disappointed that Leela's write-out was so abrupt and sudden, but apparently they left it open for Louise Jameson to return next season, and she wasn't really sure, right up until the end of filming, if she was going to stay or not, so they really only wrote it in because they needed a way to write out Leela if she didn't want to stay for the next season, which it turns out she didn't.
And they didn't utilize the hippie tribe.
The much better possible right out of the hippie tribe.
But the thing is, she's on Gallifrey, which leaves it open for her to come back in maybe just an episode. I don't think she will.
Possibly.
I don't think she will. But...
I think she shows up... There's an audio drama series based around Gallifrey, and I think she shows up in that.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised about that, but...
But, yeah, she's one of the only companions to end up on a planet different than where she started.
Well, there was Steven, and then there was... Is that it? Just Steven
Yeah, I think
and her?
just Steven, because everybody, Barbara, Ian, and
Katerina.
Susan.
Yeah,
Susan.
Katerina. She
Katerina's
didn't
dead.
end up on a planet at all.
Susan ended up
Yeah.
on a different planet. But, Ian, Barbara, Harry, Sarah, Joe, Liz, all just ended up back where they started.
Liz never left her own planet.
Unless you count that novel where she does with the Doctor and Joe. So,
Well,
yeah.
That brings an end to Leela. I wish she could have stayed around for longer.
Yeah, but somehow I feel kind of satisfied with the character arc, even though I did mention that it felt like she kind of went backwards. I feel satisfied with her time on the show.
Well, it's probably because she did more than most companions do in a longer amount of time. Not really a longer amount of time, but...
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this. Leela has been one of the first companions to make Doctor Who exciting to watch again, Kind of got dragged down during the Sarah Jane era because everything felt the same. But with Leela, every week felt like a new adventure.
It's so cheesy.
So cheesy, but true.
But okay, yeah, I would agree with that.
Nothing against Sarah Jane. Not that I didn't enjoy watching Sarah Jane serials, but with Leela it was like, oh yeah, let's see what Leela's gonna do this week. Especially with Tom being on for so long now.
Yep.
You need a companion that can change it up, which brings us to K9.
Who really changed it up? Who's the first non-human companion?
Yeah. Obviously we're just going to be talking about K9 Mark 1, because we're not done with K9 yet.
Yeah.
Be interesting to compare Mark 2 to Mark 1.
Pretty sure Mark 2 is just going to be exactly the same as Mark 1. I don't know, though.
We'll see. Mark 2 was constructed by the Doctor, and Mark 1 wasn't. Guess the Doctor just suddenly realized that having a robotic dog is a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Wouldn't you want a robotic dog to follow you around and make sarcastic comments?
And kill everyone I run into?
Yes.
Yeah, so K9 was hilariously overpowered.
Yeah. Like we said, he could probably rule the entire universe if he wanted to.
Yeah, his only weakness is that he seems to run out of power sometimes. Maybe once in his entire run.
But he was a great companion. I would say the Doctor, Leela, and K9 is my favorite TARDIS crew on the show, overtaking Second Doctor, Jamie and Zoe. Yep.
I would agree with that, actually. Even though I still like Jamie better. I like this dynamic.
You like this dog.
I like this robotic dog. No, but I just think it was a good decision to have a non-humanoid companion join the crew for once.
Yeah, like we said, it brings something different. A different doesn't always necessarily mean good.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before, but I'd be the first to say different doesn't always mean good. But in this case, it worked.
Midichlorians.
We just watched episode 7. And
yeah, that's why we've been dropping all these Star Wars references in this episode.
Yeah.
No, but K9 bonded pretty well with Leela, I think, which is why he was such a fun companion to watch. And he had a lot of fun, witty quips with not only Leela, but the Doctor too. And it also brings up an interesting point that the Second Doctor and Third Doctor, and to a lesser extent the Fourth Doctor, seem to make a habit of hating on computers, but then just decides to travel with this robotic dog that's basically a supercomputer.
Yeah, but a lot of the jokes with K9 were him calling out the Doctor on his
distrust of K9.
No, I was going to say his hypocrisy, but that has such a bad connotation. His overconfidence.
Yeah, I guess. I could see that. Kind of grounded the Doctor more. The K9 was like millions of times smarter than the Doctor because he's a computer and can calculate all these things in, microseconds.
Yeah, that when Andred is doing that math problem, and K9 gives him the answer and just gives K9 this dirty look.
So, I don't know, there's not much to say about K9. We didn't have him as long as Leela, though. He really joined, 2 serials after Leela, 3, I guess. So he wasn't in Talons of Wing Chiang. Actually,
Yeah.
3 or 4. Was it 4? Must have been 4.
He joined the 4th serial after Leela joined.
Yeah, well, there was the
'Cause there's
serial
robots in
Leela
death.
joined,
There's
and then there was the
robots-
3 in between, and then there was the K9 one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we haven't even had him for a full season yet, so not really much to say about him, actually.
I mean, other than like the past 5 minutes of us talking
Yeah.
about him,
Not much more to say about him then, if you want to be picky.
I'll miss him. I liked the scene, I guess, just to wrap up both Leela and K9. It was pretty nice. The scene where they both look sort of dejected that the doctor's gone, and they both like, you know how K9 sort of lowers his head at times like an actual dog. Leela also does the same thing. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, but he's not really gone. So, once again, just can't really put a stamp on the K9 era. Just kind of K9 Mark 1. And what kind of mysteries will K9 Mark 2 bring us? Who knows? Could be anything. Maybe he doesn't even look like K9 Mark 1. Maybe he looks completely different.
Maybe he's an actual dog the doctor picked up somewhere. He's like, you're K9 Mark 2 now.
The dog just looks at him. Woof.
But yeah, I'm glad that it ended on this note. Because it makes me super interested to watch the next serial. Which I hope doesn't begin with, oh man, I can't believe K9 Mark 2 isn't working.
Totally K9 Mark 2 got blown up on that alien planet that I was on 5 minutes ago.
Oh god.
Wheels out of box. K9 Mark 3. I'm curious to see when our next humanoid companion joins.
Probably next serial.
Probably next serial. Actually, I think next season is the Key to Time arc. We have an overarching plotline next season, I think.
Finally.
So I think that'll be interesting to, I guess, wade through and experience. See if they do it better than that Monster season, which barely even qualifies as an overarching plotline.
Well, if there's anything I've learned watching this show, it's to expect nothing.
Or expect the unexpected, I guess.
Or to expect a lot and be terribly disappointed.
Truth. Email us at thedoctordecadavevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, thoughts on Leela and K9. Check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor. Check us out on iTunes at Trust Your Doctor. Leave a rating. If you like the show, check out Triple Play. Listen to us ramble about the Star Wars Holiday Special. Not episode 7.
It was better than episode 7. No.
I mean, it was not.
No.
Not even.
No, episode 7 was great.
Yeah, they're not even in the same league. But yeah, check out Triple Play on the website and wherever podcasts are listened to.
Check us out on Facebook at Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast. And follow us on Twitter. And next week we watch the Ribos operation? Operation?
No, I think it's Ribos.
That. Well, until then, the end.